All right, we are on the dot. It is 6 p.m. here in Western Australia, so we're on the dot and we're going to get started. We only have 30 minutes. Unfortunately, I was talking to Matthew, our guest today, just previously, and I thought, wow, we needed a lot more time with him, and I'm sure everyone will agree when we get him on. So I'm not going to take too much time in the introduction so that we can make the most out of the time with Matthew. So I'm just going to stop sharing so that I can make sure that when I do introduce Matthew, that everyone can see him when he speaks. So for those of you that are new on this is Global Impact Entrepreneurs. My name is Terry Vincent. We do run these every month. These are our how-to webinars that we like to bring you some actual how-tos, how you can actually take some action right now to get some traction as opposed to just getting information. So Matthew Kimberley is someone that I have only just had the pleasure of meeting, and in the brief amount of time that we had together, I thought, wow, this guy's awesome. Like, how have I not known about you before? Because we do cross paths, obviously, in our industries, and the value that you can give to the my market as well. So Matthew is the head of Book Yourself Solid Worldwide, which he's not going to go into on this call, but I'm sure that, if there's any questions in the future that you want to know a little bit more about that, I'm sure that he's happy to share. He's also the author of Get a Effing Grip and also Delightful Emails and The School for Selling. He's got the book there. So some lucky person, and as you know, the lucky person has to stay on this right to the end, will get a copy of that book. So please do make sure you were in the first to register for this, and you need to be here at the end in order to get a copy of that book. So please do stay on here. Matthew, let's, rather than me go into too much more detail, I'm sure you can share about yourself, but you've got a lot of experience, a lot of decades in sales, and, just to kick it off mainly, I guess my biggest thing is that so many people that I speak to across the world go, email marketing is dead. People just don't do it anymore. They're so reliant on social media and all these different other platforms to get their messages out. Obviously, it's not. So I'll bring it over to you, and you can share why it's not.
Thanks very much, Terry. Thank you very much for having me, everybody. I'm Matthew Kimberley. I'm going to speak quickly with an impenetrable accent. I imagine the recording will be available as well after this. So if you miss anything, you can always type your questions into the chat. We'll be monitoring that. I'm not going to introduce myself. I know a lot about email marketing. I have a small list, but as they say, it's not how big it is, it's what you do with it. And I make hundreds of thousands of dollars every year by nurturing, loving on, and making sales offers to a small list. I say small for reference. Today, probably about 7,000 people will read an email I send. And that has meant over the last few years that my business has been sustained almost 100% on writing to people after they've joined my list. I'm not an expert in list growth. I'm not an expert in how to get lots of people on your list, but I will say that relationships have been 100% responsible for anybody finding out about me. So my relationship with Terry is a resulted in you finding out about me today. I'm a huge fan of other people's audiences. I believe we should give away all the information that we've got, and the right people will then filter to the top. With that intro done, I'm going to try to share my screen with you, and if the tech gods are smiling, I'm then going to go at an absolute breakneck pace through the notes and slides I have. And like I said, loads of information about the way I do emails available at delightfulemails.com. So if this does tickle your fancy, you can always go and check that out after I finish speaking. So there are three main problems when it comes to email. People think it's dead. That's the fourth problem. I would disagree entirely. I spend far too long in my email, and I'm sure you do as well. People will look at your emails if you're somebody whose emails are worth looking at, and that's one of the things we're going to address today. Problems that people say when I say, do you have a way of sending emails to people? Do you have Aweber, MailChimp, ActiveCampaign, Infusionsoft, whatever your CRM system is, your bulk email system is? 99% of the business owners that I work with say, yes, I have that solution available to me. And then my next question is, are you satisfied with the results you're getting? And 97% say, no, not satisfied at all. I think I could do so much better. I think I could be driving more sales. I think emails are responsible for selling. Email marketing is a misnomer. For me, marketing is getting the lead, which means their contact details. Once you've got the lead, you're now in a sales relationship. And like any sales relationship, sometimes it happens very quickly if you're selling Mars bars or emergency insurance, and sometimes it takes a long time, many years in some cases. People make investments that are directly proportionate to the amount of trust that you have earned and their need. So the role of email marketing is to continue to build trust, continue to become a person who's welcome in their life. And when the trust is sufficient and the need is there, then you are continuously making sales offers and they say, yes, I'm in. So email's super important. Problems though. First problem, people don't know how to write an email without sounding, and that can be over hypey, over salesy, too formal, too informal, too vulnerable, like somebody else, too boring. That's the problem. I write the email and I just don't like the way that it comes out. It doesn't feel like me. Second problem is, don't know what to write about. You know, how frequently can I write to someone and say, hey, you can still buy my thing? So this is a big deal for people. Like I know I should write, I just don't know what to write about, so I'll do it tomorrow. And of course, tomorrow never comes. Next thing is, the actual process of writing an email seems like far too much trouble. It takes too long. I sit down in front of a blank screen, even if I know what I'm going to write about roughly, and I get writer's block. So this particular session in the next 24 minutes is designed to try to attack all of those three problems so that you, by the end of it, will have a very clear idea about how to write by sounding and sound awesome, like you probably are. And if you're not, we'll work out how to make you more awesome. We'll give you 1,000 ideas, literally 1,000, maybe 5,000 ideas. So you're never stuck for what to write about. And you won't spend too long staring at that blank screen because you know how to put an email together in 5 minutes or less. Any questions? Just put them in the box and I will address them when I get to. But before we fix those issues, I want to tell you my philosophy. I believe that your email should be provocative. And by that, I mean, it should provoke some kind of emotional reaction. It doesn't have to be an emotional reaction. It can also be a click, but far too much attention is given to CTA. CTA is a call to action. If you do most email copywriting classes, they'll tell you, look, every email should have a clear call to action. You should have a link in there. They should be able to click through and go and do the thing that you want them to do. And I don't disagree with that. But I think far more important in the long term is that your email delivers a reward in itself. And that reward in itself trains your reader, your correspondent, to continue to read your emails, right? And they should provoke a reaction, make them laugh, make them cry, make them think, make them smile, make them scratch their head, make them nod in recognition. Yeah, I totally get that, because we're looking to form a bond with them. Whether you're an insurance company or a restaurant or a consultant or a coach, these strategies work. Some of my most successful clients run restaurants. Who would have thought restaurants could have personality-led email selling? They really can. Doesn't matter who you are. So many people do it wrong. You're not going to. Secondly, it's about your relationship with your list. Tends to be a little bit confrontational if we look at the general language used around email marketing. People say, I'm going to hit my list, or I'm going to send out a blast to my list. You know, so fast, so aggressive. When people look at their email list, two things, one of two situations can arise. They see a list of names, which means these people are nothing. They're just a list of invisible data, if you like, in a database. And the second thing is people could possibly get overwhelmed. You look at it and you see 1,000 individuals all with their eyes on you, and you cower away in the corner and you say, how could I possibly please 1,000 people or 100 people or 500 people? And I think we need to change the way that we view our relationship with our list. I actually prefer to call them pen pals or correspondents. These are all people who at some stage have raised their hand and said, I would love for you to help me, right? That's the only reason they're on your list, unless you're one of those people who puts names on your list without them knowing anything about it, in which case there is a special place in hell for you. This is consent-based marketing. People have raised their hand and said, yes, I like what you're offering. I want to give you the opportunity to help me. Please help me. I think we have a responsibility of care towards these individuals. And I think that if we don't help them as often as we can help them, which might be daily in many cases, we're actually being negligent. So you should position yourself as the head of the family, where you're a leader. It's very important that you're a leader in a sales space, right? If you want people to follow your lead, you must be a leader. But I think the most healthy relationship you can have with your list is to be the head of the family. These are all your children and you want the best for them. Now, in your role as mother or father or head of the family, you get to reprimand them, you get to give them movie nights, you get to tuck them up in bed, and you get to scold them when they've been naughty. And you get to play all of these roles from a very loving position when you are looking at your list as members of the family. The third thing is your email should delight 3 times. I call it delightful emails because delight is a beautiful word for me. And so I think your email should delight 3 times. So 3 times it delights is A, when they see it in their inbox. They've seen an email from you and they say, this is going to be good. The second, or this is going to be worth my time. The second time it should be delightful is in the reading of it. They go, this was a reward in itself. Okay, so the third time that it should be delightful is when they think about it later on. Now, I've been sending emails for a decade, and I'll go to a conference somewhere I've never been before, and somebody will come up to me and say, hey, Matthew, it's so nice to meet you in person. Do you remember that email you sent in July 2014? And I would say, no, I have no idea what you're talking about. And they'll say, well, I still think about it today. And that's the kind of experience that we want to give them, rather like if you were to watch a favorite episode of your TV, an episode of your favorite TV show, or listen to an album, there's going to be a piece of music or a storyline or an event that sticks with you. And I think the email in itself should delight 3 times. On value, I just want to disabuse you of the idea that value is teaching, or value is a transference of information, or value is somehow an information manual or a how-to manual. I believe you should never teach in your emails. I believe you should never give or never feel obliged to teach in your emails. I believe you should never feel obliged to tell people, I work in the marketing space, I don't think your email needs to be, here are 6 SEO tips that you need to master in order to get more traffic to your website. When we're looking at valuable content, and I'll get to the word actionable in a minute because I can't stand that word, but when we get to valuable content, if we look at how we genuinely value things, we value where we spend our time represents what we value. If we spend time with drinking buddies, we value drinking. If we spend time with kids, we value kids. If we spend time learning, we value learning. We spend our money on things that we value, which means if I get to have a look at your credit card statement and I see that it's all trips to Vegas, cash withdrawals outside strip clubs, gambling receipts, then I know exactly what you value. And if I see that it's probably more like you, a lot of hemp smoothies, yoga subscriptions, and organic toilet paper purchases, then I can tell a lot about you as well. We get emotionally invested in the things that we value. Some things are valuable for a brief period of time and then they lose value, which is typically the instruction manual. My washing machine's broken, I need to fix it. The most valuable thing that I can have right now is the instruction manual for my washing machine. But then it no longer has any value at all. What we value perennially are the things that we've discussed earlier, but also the people in our lives. You ask yourself, what would you say from a burning building? It's not the dishwasher manual. We can always Google that. It's the pictures of our kids and it's the record collection, and probably our kids themselves as well. The other things, that, like another question would be, what apps do you want to keep on your phone if you can only keep 1 or 2? You're going to keep 2 apps. One is going to be the app that you communicate with your friends the most with, so WhatsApp or iMessage or something like that. And the other one, well, in my case, is definitely going to be Spotify, because I can't imagine a life without music. I just can't imagine. Take everything else. Take my to-do list, take my CRM system, take all of that nonsense away. Take my sleep tracker, I can live without that. But Spotify, a life without music, forget about it. So think about value. And people say, I want to be valuable and I want to be a person of value. That's important. When it comes to actionable content, whoops, forget about it. We're not interested in actionable content, which is how-to guides or instruction manuals. Instead, we're interested in reactionable content. What can I do to provoke a reaction? Because when you provoke the reaction, you are the person who is continuously welcome in the email inbox, and you want to be selling over time in a way that delights these people. So if we want to get multiple opportunities at the sale, which all sales trainers will tell us is necessary, it takes 7 touches, it takes 49 touches, it takes an average of 367 touches before somebody buys your thing. It's got to be a reward in itself. So focus on reactionable content. That's the philosophy out of the way. 15 minutes left on the 3 things that we're going to fix. You're going to write without sounding boring, bland, confusing like everybody else, overly professional, overly familiar, too dull, all of those things. You need to think in terms of world building. If you're going to be welcome in somebody's life, they've got to have context around who you are. We tend not to pay too much attention to strangers unless they're curious or curious looking. But once we start to get to know them, we have more hooks and anchors with which to position them in our world. So we need to build a world around ourselves and our communications. That requires, firstly, the creation of what I call the easiest cheat in the book is a motif. A motif is an anchor that people associate with you. It's a personal branding exercise or a company branding exercise, but it's a place, a pet, an object, an item of clothing, which you're claiming ownership for. Now, what I did in my career is I decided that I was going to be associated with whiskey. Right? So I just made sure whiskey was mentioned frequently in my correspondence. And I made sure that whiskey was used frequently on my website. I even have a program, an email-based coaching program, which is called the Single Malt Mastermind. And after a while, your prospects start to associate this with you, and it gives you an unfair advantage. It's just a hack. It's a trick. It's a technique. It could be your dog. It could be the color socks that you wear. But it gives you an extra visual cue in their brain that says, you're that person. I will never own email marketing. You know, there are email marketing specialists with lists way bigger than me, marketing budgets way bigger than me, resources way bigger than me. But I can be the email marketing guy who's also a fan of whiskey, which is a niching down exercise. One of my clients who found me this year told me that he'd never heard of me until he was at a bar at a conference a year ago, and he ordered a Lagavulin or a Lafroig or a PT Smoky Scotch, which I'm a fan of. And somebody turned to him and said, "Who do you think you are, Matthew Kimberley?" And this guy said, "Well, I don't know who Matthew Kimberley is." Well, he's the whiskey guy. And this, you know, he became a client, but it's just a cheat or a hack or a little tool that you can use. It takes a little while to find out the thing that vibes with your personality, but it's well worth doing it. The next thing is you should have a cast of characters. It makes no sense of introducing your wife or your husband in one email only for them to never reappear again. What a wasted opportunity. Right? What about if we can associate you with 2 or 3 individuals, your sidekicks, your pets, your antagonists? I think we should be very happy to have enemies in our emails and long-term supporters in our emails, your kids perhaps, or your animals, but don't neglect to, and they don't have to have starring roles, they can make frequent cameo appearances, but it gives us the power of recall. And we start to join the dots in, what's it called? Going back. You can't join the dots going forward, but when your clients and your prospects are reading this and they say, "Oh, this person is making an appearance again. Fantastic. The grumpy next door neighbor is making an appearance again. Brilliant. The miserable landlord. Fantastic. I remember this. This is fun. This is a return to an experience that I've had before." The other thing that you can include is frequent locations. I'm sitting on my stoop, drinking a lemonade. I'm there at my beach club again. The miserable lifeguard is blowing his whistle again. And all I can think about is what a great time we're going to have at my event. There'll be no miserable lifeguards there. And then a few weeks later, I'm back at the beach club. The miserable lifeguard has been fired. We're just using frequent locations, almost like we're writing a movie script to a certain degree. Also develop themes. We like some comfort in knowing that you're going to be talking about certain themes. One of the big problems that particularly coaches, I don't know how many coaches there are on the call today, they tend to talk about absolutely anything. They use email writing as a form of therapy. And I'll talk more about that in a minute. It's just, here's what I'm dealing with in my life. Here's what I'm dealing with in my life. Here's what I'm dealing with in my life. Instead, let's stick to some major themes. People come to you for your expertise. So although we can paint these beautiful pictures about beach clubs and miserable landlords, we also want to be going back to reinforce our expertise. So we're going to be experts in something, and the way to reinforce your expertise is to repeat yourself on your subject matter. Don't be afraid to say the same thing over and over again, and choose 3 or 4 main themes that you talk about. In my case, it's coaching, email writing, and that's pretty much it, actually. You know, I'll talk about how to grow your coaching business or how to grow your email marketing effectiveness or your email selling effectiveness, but try not to stray too far from the path. It just confuses the reader. But this is the thing that's going to absolutely make all of the difference. You develop your persona, and I'll show you. I won't show you how to do it. I'll show you the end result. When you develop your persona, you can write absolutely anything you want. You can write nothing, because you become the person of value. The email is not valuable. The sender is the most valuable. Remember I said it has to delight 3 times, and the first time is when they see your name. Think about the most valuable correspondence that you get all day, the thing that provokes the biggest reaction. It's the text message from your lover that includes nothing but a winky face. There is no content in there, but it gives you a visceral physical reaction because of the person who sends it. And when you can become that person who is welcome in the inbox, then you can get away with writing absolutely nothing in your emails. Authentic vulnerability out of context is dangerous and damaging. People say, I want to be, these are the buzzwords today. I've got to be authentic. I've got to be vulnerable. I've got to be warts and all. What a terrible mistake. We all play roles in life, and we are professionals. And we have got, although I think there's a huge difference between professional and corporate. I snub my nose at corporate and I embrace professional. We all play different roles in life, and your role as leader of your business and email writer is going to be very different to your role as champagne drinking best friend who consoles or shares secrets or bitches about that girl in the corner, or rugby player or dad. You, when you're the head of the business and you're corresponding and you're head of marketing for the business, you have to have a very carefully curated and created persona, because if you end up using your email as therapy, then you're going to do all sorts of damage to your business. Robert Greene said in his book Mastery, it's not generally acknowledged or discussed, but the personality that we project to the world plays a substantial role in our success and in our ascension to mastery. Understand, people will tend to judge you based on your outward appearance. If you're not careful and simply assume that it's best to be yourself, they will begin to ascribe to you all kinds of qualities that have little to do with you, but correspond to what they want to see. Your only protection is to turn this dynamic around by consciously molding these appearances, creating the image that suits you and controlling people's judgments. You must see the creation of a persona as a key element in social intelligence. The other benefit of creating a persona, or an elevated, crafted version of yourself to write emails, is that you no longer get intimidated by your list because you're wearing your superhero cape. It's not you going out there, it's your persona. You're wearing your hat, you're wearing your force field, and now you're corresponding with confidence because you personally are one step removed from the creation. So I have exercises that allow you to craft this persona. You ask a lot of questions about your relationship with hot topics, political issues, your propensity for using swear words, your the way that you would spend an evening with a stranger, all sorts of questions like this, and you craft what is a persona. And it's important that you answer these honestly, and you must not be afraid to stand for what you stand for. If we look at the most magnetic and charismatic people in the world, they are very happy to repel. In fact, they must repel the wrong people in order to attract the right people. There are some people we're meant to serve and others not so much. Let's not waste our time pursuing dud prospects. Let's look for our perfect people who are already feeling the magnetic pull towards us. If you look at the most magnetic and charismatic and therefore influential people in the world, they are people who have as many haters as they have lovers. Donald Trump, yes. Love him or hate him? Certainly do. Justin Bieber, love him or hate him? Yes, absolutely. Because if you don't stand for something, people won't know what you stand against. You've got to pick a common enemy. You've got to pick the forces and the things that you believe in and wear them loud and proud. Do not try to please everybody. You'll end up pleasing nobody. You must have a plus and a minus. It's non-negotiable. Some people should look at you and go, ooh, I don't like you, in order for others to say, this is my person. You've got to look in the mirror, you do the assessment, and you come up with a 1-paragraph persona that is not for sharing publicly. It's only for reminding yourself, putting above your desk and saying, this is the person who's writing the email. I'm going to share mine with you. Matthew Kimberley is a sophisticated, eloquent, fiercely witty, and yes, handsome, James Bond-esque British playboy. He's known for his erudite vocabulary and elegant presentation skills, unflappable, unconventional, and always unfazed. Never without a stiff drink and a sharp anecdote. Trust him with your business, but not your wife. Now, this isn't really me. You know, I'm the person who will leave a party once I've said the awkward hellos. But when I'm on the stage, like today, or when I'm writing the email, I'm very happy to step into a version of that persona, and I'm able to ask myself, what would James Bond do in this situation? What to write about? Super quickly. You've got to have subject matter prompts, which means this is your area of expertise, your themes. You've also got to have creative prompts. So these are the things that make the email delightful, because we're not interested in purely subject matter experiences. We're also interested in wrapping that up in a world. So we need some prompts that are both subject matter. You write a list of all things you know about and you can teach about, or you're an expert in, and then we have creative prompts. There are a few strategies I use for doing these, including for generating these prompts. I use Evernote and I just dump them in there. There's the fractal method. There is the library method. There's the daily drip, which is a 5-minute exercise where you ask questions like, who did I talk to? What did I read? Who did I speak to? What did I listen to? What frustrated me? What made me laugh? And you journal these in 5 minutes over a cup of coffee. So you have talking points, the same things that you would talk about with your friend if you met them. Hey, what'd you get up to today? God, I met this real dickhead. He really, got on my nerves. Tell me about him, right? This is a talking point that would be appropriate for an email for your right people. And there's also the alphabet method, and I'm going to demonstrate that to you very quickly in 1 minute. First person to write their profession in the chat box, I'm gonna use you as a guinea pig. Well, or the industry you're in, or your job title, or something like that. Preferably an industry. Parent coach, fantastic. So if you're a parent coach, you're going to write down the letters of the alphabet, etc., like this. And then you're going to sit down and over a glass of wine or a glass of whiskey or a cup of coffee, you're just going to brainstorm using the letters of the alphabet as a prompt, all the topics that you know and you could write about. So we're going to start with adolescence. We're going to start with babies. We're going to start with kindergarten. We're going to talk about clothing. We're going to talk about schooling. We're going to talk about, I don't know, teacher-parent relationships, etc., etc. And you know your area much better than me, but I've just spent 20 seconds listing out 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 potential topics. Adolescence. Why is adolescence difficult? How to deal with adolescence in the house. Babies. What to expect when you're expecting. How to deal with teething. It's, we could go on for hours on this. Clothing, inappropriate clothes for teenage kids, for your daughters. Warm clothing for the winter. Why is it important? Can you let your kids choose their own clothes, etc.? We're just so stuck for time, I'm not going to keep going. But what we have here already, in the space of less than 1 minute, we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 prompts, which is enough for almost 2 months worth of weekly emails. Okay, so these are just questions that you answer, and we've just done 2 months. Now imagine if we spent 10 minutes on that, we'd have 2 years worth. This is a strategy that you can use. Actually writing the damn thing in 1 minute. Every email has a structure, a skeleton, a framework. The subject, the greeting, the flesh, the segue, the point, and the call to action. And we're going to write them in this order. Let's say that you want your, and this is how you can write an email in 2 minutes flat. We'll start with the greeting, that's easier. So let's just start there. Hi, okay, we've done that, it's done. So we don't want to stare at an empty page. Then we've got the call to action. What do we want them to do as a result of this email? Well, let's say we want them to click here to register. Okay, so click here to register. And that's not quite enough yet because we're going to need to add a reason for them to click here to register and some reference around that. So I'm running a parenting class. Click here to register. Okay, now let's imagine we're getting on a plane and we're about to take off and we forgot to send out an email to our list to tell them that we're running a parenting class. If you are a person of value and your emails are generally seen as delightful, this has taken you 20 seconds and you can hit send. It's got no subject, but it doesn't matter because subject lines don't matter when you're a person of value. And it's got not much point of context, but it's enough to drive 5, 6, 10 people to check out your class. That's all we need to do. It's perfectly good. We have a good email here. It's not delightful, but it's good enough. Listen, we all know how to write an email. Since our AOL, Yahoo.com, Gmail addresses have existed, we can sit down and write an email, but we tend to poop the bed when it comes to writing to a list. So let's make that less difficult and just go hit send. Hi, Bob. I'm running a parenting class this weekend. Click here to register. Do you think your right people might respond to that? Of course they would, because they know about your expertise. They've read your lead magnet. They've read your previous emails. But let's make it a little bit delightful. Could somebody just give me an object? Any object, top of your head. Any object off the top of your head in the chat. First one I'll use as an example. I'm looking at the chat. A bottle. Okay, fantastic. A bottle and a cup. Okay. Hi, friend. I don't know if you remember the first time that you got drunk. I was 14 years old. My mum and my dad had to come and pick me up from a party. I'd embarrassed myself. I'd embarrassed them, and I'd made a terrible mess. My mother said as she tucked me into bed, mopping my brow with tears through her eyes, "It seems like only yesterday you were my baby drinking from a sippy cup. What was it that turned you to the bottle so young?" Raising teenagers is really difficult. If you need help with that, I'm running a parenting class next weekend. Click here to register. Okay? Do you see what we've done there? We have taken absolutely anything, which is our flesh. Then we've added a segue. Parenting is tough. That's why I'm running a parenting class. And we've got a perfectly delightful email. Now, it doesn't always have to be story-based. Sometimes it can just be an opinion. Right? You don't have to be a storyteller. You know what makes me really angry? The French. Why? Because they give their kids alcohol at the age of 11. That's highly inappropriate. If you, like me, believe that kids shouldn't touch alcohol until they're at least 25 and married, you should join my conservative parenting class happening this weekend. That's it. You know, it's just an opinion that we can use instead. And that's how you can write an email in 5 minutes flat. Subject line doesn't really matter, and we don't have time, but it really doesn't matter. But now that you know it's not what you write, it's who writes the email and how you make the reader feel. You know how to generate a year's worth of content ideas in 15 minutes, and you know how to write the email. Thank you for having me. If you want more, there's more available at delightfulemails.com. But you're awesome, and I really enjoyed that.
Wow, Matthew, you just blew everyone away. I mean, I don't know about everyone else, but I took heaps of notes and that was just phenomenal. Thank you so much. It's amazing. We've had sessions with people telling about storytelling, and we've got podcasts coming up and different things. And, you know, that was just so, it just makes it seem so simple. And obviously there's a lot of research and, you know, just the style of who you are that's gone into that, but you've just helped everyone amazingly. And just quickly, there was just one question that came out from it. Sure. Was about the length of emails, because, you know, we've all had those very long salesy emails, and Kimberley asked it, and I'm exactly the same. If it's not inspiring me right from the get-go, sometimes what I'll do, if I sort of see that it could be something but I'm not really inspired, I will scroll down to the end to see, is this something I want to do? Because generally you know where that's going to be. What's your view on, you know, email length? I
think it's kind of the wrong question. I've never been accused of being succinct. You know, I will always use 10 words where 1 is possible, just to show off my vocabulary, if nothing else. But I think I've written emails that are 2,000 words long, and I've also written emails that are 200 words long. I think in order to get into a regular rhythm, it's probably better to urge on veer to the side of short. 300 to 500 words is a nice bite-sized readable piece. We also want the email in itself to be a reward. Now, I do believe that there are launch sequences, there are sales sequences that we can build out in our emails. And sometimes we have to have a hard sell in an email, and sometimes we don't have a hard sell in an email. My general belief is, how long is a piece of string? But I think if you do want to write a long form sales letter, email probably isn't the best place for that. I would encourage people to self-select and jump through the hoops and qualify themselves by perhaps reading some introductory blurb and then, jumping over to your long form sales letter. So although there is a place occasionally for long form direct response, click to buy this thing emails, it's not my favorite. Another question about frequency came in from Leanne. I went through periods when I emailed every day. I now go through periods of when I email when I have something to say. Interestingly, when I did email every day, if I ever missed one, then my readers would let me know. I had one lady in Australia wrote to me. She said, listen, because I used to send the emails about 4 p.m. my time, which is about 4 hours from now, so probably about 10 p.m. Australia time. She said, I always wait for my phone to ding at 10 p.m. to know that it's time to read your email and go to bed. Last night, I was up until 2 o'clock. Where was your email, right? So your right people won't mind about frequency. How often do you want the next episode of your favorite show to drop? Now! I can't wait a week, right? Don't worry about frequency. People will let you know if you're emailing too often by unsubscribing. And that's not a bad thing either. One of my colleagues measures unsubscribes in cash format. 10 people unsubscribed from today's email, but I made $5,000. That's $500 per unsubscribe.
Yeah.
I'd rather have a list of 10 super fans or 10 buyers than a list of 3,000 people who are never going to buy anything. They can go. It doesn't matter.
Yeah, it's like Facebook friends, same thing, right? Okay, thanks, Matthew. We have gone a little bit over, and I know that everyone could keep asking questions all night, but we've put your website on there. So it is delightfulemails.com. Pretty easy for everyone to remember. So please do go and check that out. But we would love to actually announce the winner of your book. So if Mandy, you can please put that in the chat box, and then I'll say who it is. Everyone watch out. So we have the drum roll. Charlotte Hill, she was the first that I saw that came on. So you're going to get a copy of this. We're going to send you
your
details.
way, Charlotte. Coming your way.
Charlotte's fairly new in coaching and with what she's doing. She's based over here in the West as well. So exciting times. So I'm so happy, Charlotte. Congratulations on that. Thanks again, Matthew. I'm sure everyone would agree that it'd be awesome to get you back at some stage and hear a bit more about what you do and your programs and what you can offer and how you can support them through what you do is from that perspective, because it was so quick but so much value. So thank you so much.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me. And I'd love to, please do connect with me in all the places. If you've got any follow-up questions, MatthewKimberley.com is another place you can find me. So just don't be a stranger. Let me know where you heard from me. All I do is love on my email inbox. So just don't be afraid to show up. Thank you very much.
Maybe we'll get you to add us all onto your list so that we can wait for your emails to come in and get excited like everyone else does. All right. Thanks, everyone. Thanks for showing up. Our next webinar is on the 27th with Michelle Crawford. So I'm excited about that. She's very much about impact. So I'm looking forward to you all registering for that soon. That'll be out in the next few days. All right. Thanks again. Thanks, Matthew. Thanks, everyone. Have a great rest of your day, whatever time it is. Bye for now.